It started with a backpack, a pair of little overalls, and a walk that never ended. Just 2 blocks. That's all it was between Lily Whitfield's house and her elementary school, less than 5 minutes on small feet. Down a quiet suburban street where everyone knew each other, where parents waved from porches, where crossing guards smiled and waved kids across like they'd done 1,000 times before. June 15th, 8 years ago, was just another morning. The sun was up, birds were singing, and 6-year-old Lily kissed her mom goodbye, grabbed her pink cartoon backpack, and stepped out the door. She never made it to school. No screams, no witnesses, no signs of a struggle. One moment she was there, the next gone, vanished, like she disappeared into thin air. For 8 years, her mother Norah kept that door open, kept her room exactly the same, birthday cards stacked on the desk, stuffed animals lined up on the bed, lunchbox still in the kitchen. Every day was a silent prayer. Every knock at the door, a spark of hope, and every dead end, another piece of her heart chipped away. Missing posters faded on telephone poles. Search parties stopped meeting on weekends. The world moved on, but Norah didn't. She drained her savings on private investigators. Age progression, photos, websites, flyers, anything that might bring her daughter back. And then, out of nowhere, a phone call changed everything. That was a routine job. Electricians working under an old, run-down house on Willow Creek Road, about 15 miles outside town. The place had been empty for years, scheduled for demolition. Weeds choked the yard, windows were boarded, and the roof sagged like it was tired of holding itself up. The crew was checking the wiring when they found a loose panel beneath the foundation. Just a crawl space, dusty, dark, forgotten. But when they shined a light inside, something stopped them cold. A child's mattress, a chain bolted to the wall, and scattered across the dirt floor, a pair of denim overalls with a sunflower embroidered on the pocket, a green and yellow striped shirt, a pink backpack covered in grime. The same clothes Lily was wearing the day she vanished. The police were called, evidence was collected, and then, the call came to Norah. Her hands shook so hard she dropped the phone. She didn't cry, she didn't scream. She just got in the car and drove, her eyes locked on the road, heart pounding like it was trying to escape her chest. When she got there, the house looked like something out of a nightmare. But it was what was under it that was worse. The crawl space was small, dark, and airless, just big enough for a child to live in. Forensics said someone had been held there, not for a day, not for a week, but for months, maybe longer. There were plates, a water bottle, a faded Hello Kitty poster on the wall, all of it preserved by the dry, stale air, and DNA hair, fingerprints, proof that Lily had been there, trapped alone. While the world searched forests, drained ponds, and followed false leads, she was just 15 miles away under their feet. But who put her there, and why? The house was rented through a now-defunct property management company. Cash payments. No name, just a ghost. The owner hadn't seen the tenant in years. The trail was cold until Norah started digging. She went back to the beginning, walked Lily's route again, past the big maple tree where her daughter used to pick helicopter seeds, past the Henderson's house where the dog used to bark hello, and then she stopped at the corner of Maple and 3rd, the same intersection Lily crossed every morning, the same spot where Harold Walsh stood for over a decade in his bright orange vest, holding a stop sign and handing out stickers to kids. Harold, everyone loved him. He was kind, quiet, always there. When Lily disappeared, he was devastated, took time off to search, organized weekend hunts through the woods, cried at her memorial, said he'd never forgive himself for not being on duty that morning. He was a hero in the eyes of the town, a good man, a safe man, the kind of person you'd trust with your child without a second thought. But something didn't sit right with Norah. The rental payments had stopped about a year ago, around the same time Harold retired. Coincidence? Maybe, but when she saw him at a gas station, buying strawberry ice cream and a propane canister, something inside her froze. Because Lily had a rare allergy. Not just any allergy. If she touched strawberries, her skin would break out in a red, swollen rash only on her left arm, near the elbow. A doctor once said it was like a fingerprint, one of a kind. And as Harold turned, Norah saw a girl in the back of his old Winnebago, blonde, older. But when the girl lifted her spoon, a drop of melted ice cream dripped onto her arm, and right where the pink stain touched her skin, a red welt began to rise. Exactly where Lily's always did. Norah's breath caught in her throat. She called the detective, told him everything. But when police rushed to the RV park, Harold was already gone, left in a hurry. No forwarding address, no trace, just tire tracks leading into the woods. Then, a tip came in. A resident mentioned Harold talking about a secret camping spot deep in the mountains, off an old forest road. No cell service, no neighbors, just trees and silence. That's where they found the Winnebago, parked in a clearing. Police surrounded it, shouted for Harold to come out, and when the door finally opened, he wasn't alone. He had the girl with him, scared, crying, and wrapped in his arms like she was his. His voice cracked as he told them, "I saved her. I gave her everything. But when the girl broke free and ran toward the officers, Norah stepped forward, tears streaming down her face, whispering, "Lily, it's me, it's Mom." The girl stopped, looked at her, and in that moment, something flickered in her eyes, like a memory trying to surface. But then it was gone. "My name is Sarah," she said. "My parents are dead." She backed away, shaking, screaming for him, the man who took her, the man who raised her, the man she called Grandpa. And as the ambulance pulled away, carrying Lily knows Sarah into a world she didn't recognize, Norah was left standing in the dirt, watching her daughter disappear all over again. Only this time, she was alive, breathing, but lost in a way that might be harder to fix than any physical chain. Because after 8 years of lies, brainwashing, and a life built on a fake past, the real question isn't just who took Lily Whitfield, it's can she ever come back? Can a girl who's been taught to forget her own mother ever remember the truth? And what happens when the person who stole her was also the only family she's known for half her life? This isn't just a story about a missing girl. It's about identity, about manipulation, about how love can be twisted into something unrecognizable, and about a mother who found her daughter and only to realize the hardest part might be just beginning. The mountain air was cold and sharp, but Norah didn't feel it. She stood frozen in the clearing, watching the ambulance lights pulse red and white against the trees, the sound muffled like it was coming from underwater. Her daughter was in there, Lily, alive, breathing, but she had pulled away from her, called her a liar, said her mother was dead. The words echoed in Norah's skull, louder than the police radios, louder than the creek babbling nearby. She had spent 8 years begging for a miracle, praying for just one sign, one clue, one breath of hope. And now that she had her daughter back, it didn't feel like a rescue. It felt like loss all over again. Back at the hospital, the silence between them was worse than the screaming. Lily no Sarah sat on the edge of the bed, arms crossed, eyes fixed on the wall. A nurse tried to check her vitals, but the girl flinched like she was being touched by an enemy. "I want my grandpa," she said, her voice flat, rehearsed. "He needs his insulin. He'll get sick. You're hurting him." Norah wanted to scream, to shake her, to say, "He's not your grandpa. He's the man who stole you. He chained you in a hole under the ground." But she couldn't, not yet. The doctors said it would do more harm than good. Dr. Marino, the child psychologist, explained it gently. She's not lying. She believes it. After 8 years of living inside a lie, the lie is her truth. Norah sat in the waiting room, clutching Lily's old medical file like a lifeline. The allergy report, the school photos, the birth certificate. Proof, cold, hard proof. But what good was proof when the person who needed to see it didn't even know who she was? She thought about the crawl space, the mattress, the chain, the faded Hello Kitty poster. How many nights had Lily cried herself to sleep in that dirt hole? How many times had she called out for her mom, only to be told she was gone? That she'd died, that the only family she had left was the man who locked her in the dark. Meanwhile, Harold sat in a jail cell, a broken man in an orange jumpsuit. He wasn't the monster Norah expected. He didn't sneer, he didn't deny it, he just sat there, head in his hands, repeating the same words over and over. "I saved her. I gave her a better life." Detective Martinez questioned him for hours, trying to piece together the full story. Harold had been a crossing guard for over 30 years, respected, trusted, a fixture at the school. But behind the kind smile and the stickers he handed out, there was a loneliness that ate at him. His wife had died young. No children, no family. Just decades of watching other people's kids grow up, laugh, get picked up by loving parents while he went home to an empty house. And then one morning, he saw Lily walking alone. Again, no parent, no supervision, just a 6-year-old with a backpack and a gap-toothed smile. Something in him snapped. Or maybe it had been broken long before. He told Martinez he didn't plan it. Not at first. But he had been thinking about it for weeks. The world was dangerous. Kids got hurt, and Lily, she was so small, so trusting. So he called in sick that morning, waited in his van. When she passed, he said, "Lily, your mom had an emergency. She asked me to pick you up," and she believed him. She always smiled at him, always said good morning. Why wouldn't she trust him? The house on Willow Creek Road had been rented under a fake name, paid in cash. He'd chosen it because it was far enough away, quiet, forgotten. He'd prepared the crawl space months in advance, mattress, water, food, even a poster to make it feel like home. When Lily resisted, when she cried for her mom, he showed her the fake newspaper clippings. A car crash, parents killed instantly. "It's okay," he'd say, "I'm your family now." He dyed her hair blonde, homeschooled her with books he bought online, gave her a new name, a new birthday, a new life. And slowly, over time, she stopped fighting, stopped asking, started calling him Grandpa. At the hospital, Norah watched through the observation window as a social worker tried to talk to Lily. The girl sat stiffly, eyes down, fingers twisting the blanket. "Do you remember anything before Harold?" the woman asked gently. Lily shook her head. "No, I was in the car with my parents. There was smoke. glass. Then Grandpa found me. He told me I was lucky to be alive. The social worker glanced at Norah, who felt like her heart was being torn in two. This wasn't just about finding Lily, it was about unmaking 8 years of brainwashing, of lies so deep they had become her bones. Norah started bringing things to the hospital: Lily's favorite stuffed bear, a recording of her singing Twinkle Twinkle Little Star when she was 4, a photo of them baking cookies together. The first time she showed the picture, Lily looked at it like it was alien. "That's not me," she said. "I don't wear overalls. I don't have red hair." But then, for just a second, her eyes lingered on the freckles. The same pattern she had now, a flicker, a shadow, gone as fast as it came. Detective Martinez visited Norah with news. Harold had confessed to everything: the abduction, the fake identity, the isolation. But he still insisted he loved her. She was happy, he said. "She called me Grandpa. She chose me." The DA was pushing for life in prison, but Norah didn't care about punishment. She cared about her daughter, about whether Lily could ever come back to her. Because the truth was, even if Harold was behind bars, his influence wasn't. He had spent 8 years erasing Lily and building Sarah, and now, Sarah was fighting to survive. One night, Norah stayed late at the hospital. Lily was asleep, the sedative finally calming her. Norah sat beside the bed, holding her hand. It was warm, real, alive. "I'm here, baby," she whispered. "I never stopped looking. I never stopped loving you. You were always mine." And then, something happened. Lily stirred. Her fingers twitched, and in her sleep she mumbled 2 words, so soft, Norah almost missed them. "Mommy, stay." Norah's breath caught. Tears streamed out her face. It wasn't a full memory, not a breakthrough, but it was a crack, a tiny fragile opening in the wall Harold had built. The next morning, Lily didn't scream when Norah walked in. She didn't call her a liar. She just looked at her. And for the first time, there was no anger in her eyes. Just confusion. And maybe, just maybe, the faintest spark of something else, something that could grow. The hospital room was quiet now. The sedative had pulled Lily's air into a deep, uneasy sleep. Her breathing was slow, her hands unclenched at last. Norah stood by the observation window, one palm still pressed against the glass. Like she could send warmth, love, memory, through the barrier. She had spent the last 8 years screaming into silence, chasing shadows, begging the world to give her daughter back. And now that Lily was here alive, breathing, real, she felt more helpless than ever. Because the girl in that bed didn't know her, didn't remember her voice, her touch, the way she used to sing "You Are My Sunshine" when Lily had a bad dream. To her, Norah was the stranger, the liar, the woman who claimed to be a ghost. Downstairs, Detective Martinez had finished taking Harold's full confession. It wasn't just about the abduction. It wasn't just about the crawlspace or the fake newspaper clippings. Harold had kept a journal, hidden in the Winnebago, wrapped in a plastic bag beneath a floorboard, page after page of warped logic, of grief twisted into justification. Asterisk, "I saved her from a world that didn't care. I gave her stability, I gave her love. I became her father, her mother, her family. She doesn't need the past. She needs me." He believed every word. And in a way, that made it worse. This wasn't just a predator. This was a broken man who'd replaced his own loss with someone else's child. But the most chilling part of the journal wasn't the lies. It was the truth buried beneath them. Harold wrote about the first few months: how Lily would cry for her mom every night, how she'd scratch at the chain in the crawlspace until her wrists bled, how she'd scream, "I want my mommy," until her voice gave out, and then, slowly, the silence. The day she stopped fighting, the day she called him Grandpa. For the first time he wrote it like it was a victory, like it was proof he'd saved her. Norah read those pages and felt like she was drowning. She had imagined Lily's suffering 1,000 times, but never like this erased, rewritten, made to forget her own name. Days passed. Lily Sarah was moved to a secure child trauma unit, where Dr. Marino began the slow, careful work of therapy. No confrontations, no forced memories, just gentle questions, familiar objects, soft music. Norah brought in the old recordings: Lily's laugh, her voice singing, the sound of her footsteps on hardwood. She brought the overalls, the backpack, the stuffed bear with the missing eye. She left them in the room, not pushing, just being their asterisk. Then, one afternoon, something shifted. Lily was sitting by the window, flipping through a photo album Norah had left behind. She paused on a picture of her 5th birthday cake smeared on her face, red hair wild, freckles glowing in the sunlight. She stared at it for a long time. Then quietly, she said, "I remember this cake. It had sprinkles, rainbow ones." Norah, who had been sitting silently in the corner, barely dared to breathe. "You do." Lily didn't look at her. I think I threw one at Max, the dog next door." Norah's heart stopped. Max, the golden retriever, the one who used to bark at her from behind the fence, the one Lily had thrown a sprinkle at. A tiny, forgotten moment from a lifetime ago. Tears filled Norah's eyes, but she didn't move, didn't speak, just let the memory stand there, fragile and real. It wasn't a full breakthrough. Lily still called herself Sarah, still asked about Harold, still believed her parents were dead. But that moment, the sprinkle, the dog, the cake was a crack in the wall. And through that crack, light was starting to get in. Harold was charged with kidnapping, unlawful imprisonment, and psychological abuse. He would never see freedom again. But even as the court case moved forward, Norah didn't feel victory. She felt grief. Grief for the years stolen. Grief for the little girl who had to forget her mother to survive. Grief for the man who had been so broken he thought stealing a child was the answer. And then, one evening, Lily asked for her Dot, not Sarah, not that woman. She asked for her mom. She was sitting in the therapy room, holding a small red hair ribbon. Norah had brought something Lily had worn on her first day of school. She looked up and said, I think I used to have red hair. Norah nodded, her throat tight, and I think I used to live in a house with a big tree in the front. You did, Norah whispered, and you used to climb it. Lily looked at her, really looked at her. For the first time, did I love you? Norah's tears fell freely. More than anything in the world. Lily didn't run to her, didn't hug her, but she didn't pull away when Norah reached out and gently took her hand. The road ahead would be long. There would be setbacks. There would be nights when Lily screamed for Harold, when the false memories felt more real than the truth. But she was here. She was safe. She was remembering. And in the end, that was enough. This story isn't just about a girl who vanished walking to school. It's about how love can be twisted, how a child's mind can be reshaped, how a mother's hope can outlast even the darkest lies. It's about the freckles that led to a rescue, the allergy that broke a cover-up, and the quiet moments that bring a lost daughter home, not all at once, but piece by piece. If you've ever lost someone, if you've ever held on when there was no reason to, this is for you. Because sometimes, the impossible happens. Sometimes, after 8 years in the dark, a light turns on. And sometimes, a mother's love is the only truth. A child needs to find her way back.